Hi everybody, my name's Catherine Leyland and I'm here today to give you some top tips on how you can promote a love of reading right the way across your school. So let's have a look at how we can promote a love of reading and build a reading community. Obviously, there's been lots of research and lots of people who share our opinion about the importance of promoting a love of reading, one of them being Michael Rosen, who recently posted this on Twitter. Reading for pleasure works because books work. Books work because they invite interpretation, the play of speculation, reflection, prediction, affirmation, surprise, deduction, analysis, wonder, empathy, fear, hope, conceptual thinking, memory, and much more, which again just reinforces our opinion that books are magic. You may well have seen this document. This is our examining, teaching and learning in English. If you haven't seen it, it is available on our website. So you can see the link at the bottom there. So you can head over to our website and get yourselves a copy of that document. This is section 4, which is looking at the reading curriculum. And you can see there at the very top, question 4A, is there a positive reading culture in school? So it might well be worth looking at the whole document, but in particular, if you are looking at your reading culture and promoting that love of reading, maybe just focusing on a couple of sections and using these questions to facilitate conversations back at school to see where you are with your reading culture and community at school. In terms of that reading curriculum, it obviously encompasses everything. This isn't just about your English units. This is about carefully selected texts across the curriculum. So obviously we want to be keeping an eye on our national curriculum. Hopefully you might be using our key learning in reading documents and our laps to ensure progression across year groups and within year groups. And then in terms of that teaching and learning in reading, we need to be carefully considering our curriculum mapping with our core texts and our linked texts for our English units. We also need to be looking at our guided reading texts, direct teaching alongside practicing fluency and comprehension. We need to be looking at our book bans or any other systems that we're using for our home reading. We need to look at our reading for pleasure, maybe our library and any year group challenges that we might be involved in. And we also want to obviously make sure we are carefully selecting those texts, those novels for that end of the day reading. So in terms of curriculum mapping, we want to make sure we are planning it out very carefully. So you can see there, it's a really good idea, obviously, to have your half terms across the top. So you know how long you've got, because that may determine things like class novels in terms of length. So you can see there, we've obviously got our English unit core texts plotted first. Then we've got some linked texts that again will help support those core texts in our English units. Then we've got our guided reading, our class novel, any quality cross-curricular texts, and of course, don't forget about that poetry, which is brilliant for developing fluency and vocabulary. Do make sure your texts are progressing obviously over the terms. And hopefully when we've got all of that in place, that really will help to implement that love of reading. So we've got a real example of a curriculum map here. This one is a reception curriculum map. You can see there every half term, they've got their high quality texts plotted out. And you can see there we've got some fiction, some non-fiction and some poetry and rhymes for every half term. And we've also got some of those lovely quality link texts as well. So the children are getting a really good rich reading diet. So maintaining positive attitudes to reading, arguably the most important part of reading. We know we need to teach children how to read, but actually if we can give them that gift of the love of reading, that's going to stay with them for a lifetime. So we do really, really believe in this. So we really want the children to love reading. So let's have a little look. Again, these are some key questions that you might want to consider back at your school. So how often do teachers read to children? How are teachers supported to ensure story times are engaging? How are the books that will be read to children selected? Which stories do the children get to know inside out? Are the ones that the children learn, perhaps with some actions, and learn to repeat? How are parents encouraged to develop the love of reading with their children? Which books have teachers most enjoyed reading to children recently? And then the questions in blue are some key questions that you might like to talk to your pupils about. Can you show me your favourite books? Why is this one your favourite? Do you take it home to read or share? Have you got any favourite authors or poets? Which book are you reading at present and who is the author? Is the school library well stocked with a wide range of books, including current authors and titles across a range of genres? And if there are class libraries, are these stocked with appropriate books which reflect the curriculum? Are you a reading school? I always think it's a really nice idea to do a little bit of a reading walk. So imagine you're a visitor to your school, come in through the front doors and do a tour of your school with a focus on looking for that promotion of reading. So in terms of that, we want to consider the whole school environment. So the welcome foyer, the corridors, the classrooms, the school website. What does that say about the value of books and reading at your school? And if you are going to do a love of reading learning walk, a couple of things that you might like to consider. Where are books stored? How are books stored? Are a wide range genres of books available? So is there plenty of high quality non-fiction, some lovely poetry, some amazing high quality cross-curricular books? What condition are the books in? Are they well organised? Is reading promoted by displays and motivational quotes? And is reading clearly part of the school and individual classroom culture? Consider your class reading areas if you do have them. Are they well organised? Are they inviting? Are they used daily? Are the children excited to go and use the class reading area? Other things that you might like to consider, so things that can promote reading across the school. You may have seen these lovely posters that you can generate for free on whatimreading.org. These take seconds to create, and obviously you can pop in there your book that you are reading for your unit or your book for reading for pleasure. Teachers can pop on what they're reading themselves. So it might be a nice idea, obviously, for support staff to have theirs, just so you can see all around the school that everybody at our school is a reader. So that's a really lovely one to do. We've also seen lots of book vending machines popping up to promote a love of reading, which is a really nice idea. And we've also seen lots of lovely displays in classrooms which show us what the children have read each month or each half term, and that's a really nice way as well of helping the children to remember what they've read across the year. Book Trust have recently produced a report called Life Changing Libraries. Again, the link for that is at the bottom of the screen. So if your school library is something that you are thinking of looking at to make sure it is fully functional, purposeful, and also inviting, you may want to have a little look at this report. So this report is broken down into key areas, and it's what we call a gold standard library. So there it's looking at the space that's available for the library, it's looking at the resources, it's looking at the expertise of the teachers who run the library, and it's also looking at how that library can be used as part of the wider community. So that might be a really useful document for you to have a little look at and just see how well is your library doing at school. Bring books to life. This used to be one of my favourite things to do. We want children, obviously, to love our books. We want them to be fully engaged. So every opportunity you can, bring those books to life. Sign up for alerts for your local theatres to see what's touring at the moment, to see what's on. Have a little look if there's any plays or things you can go to. Can you get some authors or poets or illustrators to visit school? Can you go to theatres? Can you go to local libraries? Can you make links with your class text when you go on residentials? So one I did, for example, was we evacuated our year 6 children when we were reading Goodnight Mr. Tom, and it really helped us kind of experience what the characters were feeling in that book when they were sent away, and when they were participating in different types of activities in a countryside setting that they weren't used to. So try and bring those books to life as often as you can. If you need some help with selecting texts, there are some brilliant websites out there for helping you choose. So there are just a few of our favourites: Books for Topics, Love Reading for Kids, Book Trust, and The Reader Teacher. So do have a little look at those to help you select, obviously, your texts, your engaging books that you're going to use with your class, and get the children involved. I always think if the children have had a hand in choosing the text that you're going to read, they're going to be far much more engaged. Think about your creating interest. So this is your English unit. So when you've selected the text you're going to use for your unit, how are you going to engage the children? Remember, your creating interest session is going to hook those children in and make them want to read the rest of that text. So are you going to use a poem to introduce them to that text? Are you going to set up some sort of role play or scenario? Is there an exciting or mysterious object that somehow links to the text? Have you got a powerful image or a soundtrack? So it is worth giving consideration to those things before you start that unit, to make sure that the children are hooked and love that text before you even start reading it. Use film to motivate where possible. Lots of quality texts do have film or animated versions, and we always think that's a really good idea to support the reading of that quality text. Obviously, we can read it in the book, and then we can watch some of it on screen as well. And sometimes we can get slightly different nuances from both. So we think that's a really good way, and obviously a multi-sensory way, again, of engaging children into those quality texts. Use ICT to motivate reading. If ICT is something that motivates your children, QR codes are extremely easy to create. So I've just created a few very simple ones based on the novel Hugo Cabret, which we love. So if you have got a smartphone or an iPad, you can just hover over those and you can see it will widen the children's reading. So it takes you to some explanations, or it takes you to some information about the author, etc., etc. You might want to print those out and hide them around the classroom and do a little reading treasure hunt with the children, so they can go around with the iPads, and obviously the iPads will take them to a safe, secure website that you've pre-chosen, where they can read more information, or where they can promote wider reading around that key text. Recommendations are really important. Children are far more likely to read books that have been recommended to them. So do make sure you're building in reading recommendations with your class. And it might be that you are recommending some text to the pupils. It might be that the pupils are recommending text for you to read. Pupil-to-pupil recommendations are really powerful. And also, if we are going to be a reading community, let's do some teacher-to-teacher recommendations there. And you can see some lovely ideas there of photographs we've taken around schools, where there are book covers stuck on doors or on walls, and then children have sticky notes and children can write recommendations, or indeed they could just do that verbally to their class, talking about the books that they like to read and why. Reading challenges. So these are a really good idea. We want, obviously, children to read widely, and perhaps books that they wouldn't choose themselves. So take a chance on a book is a really nice thing to do. So all you need to do for these is to wrap a selection of books up so that the children can't see the front cover. Then you need to make an agreement with the children that they must read the book they select even if it's not one they would usually choose for themselves. Now, obviously, you can make sure that these are appropriate for the age and the level of your children in school before you give these out. But this used to be a really lovely thing, so that we'd all get given a book, we'd all open them at the same time, and we'd have a little look at the front cover, we'd read the blurb, and then we'd have a go at a new book that somebody has given us to read rather than us choosing ourselves. So it's just to make sure that those children are getting that rich, varied reading diet. And what would be a lovely thing to do there is, obviously, if you can provide the opportunity for children to share responses. You might want to set up some reading challenges. So we've got some book battleships, and these have just been updated to include early years right up to year 5 and 6. Now, these can be used flexibly. So you can see there that this one is a range of authors. So can the children sink a ship by reading a book by one of these authors? Can you sink 4 in a row? Can you sink the entire fleet? So it really is just encouraging children to read again widely and giving them a way of recording it. So as I said, this can be used flexibly. So you may want to give these to the children in September to work on over the year, or you may want to give them to your new class for September over the summer holidays to give them a head start, and that would give you a really good starting point when you came back in September. As I said, they've just been updated and turned into a new free resource. So these have just been popped on our website. So the link is there at the bottom. So as soon as you can, head over to the website and download your free resource there. Make sure you are valuing reading. Obviously, if we want the children to love reading, we've got to make sure that we are showing them that it is valued at our school. So dedicate time to daily reading and make sure that this time is sacred, not just a quick 30 seconds at the end of the day while they're putting their coats on. Make sure that the children know this is our reading time, and we're going to make sure that it happens because it's special and it's important. Make sure you give children and staff opportunities to share what they are reading. Conversations about books can be really, really powerful. And it might be an idea that the head teacher listens to some readers daily, which we know a few schools are doing now. And again, we think that's a really lovely idea. Obviously, we want everybody to be involved. So if you can involve parents as much as possible, that would be wonderful. It might be that you're going to include some phonics workshops or assemblies so that parents are trained in phonics. You might post some handy hints on the school website or on your school's social media account. You might run some parents' reading courses at school, led by teachers or even by other parents. You might want to show the parents some comprehension strategies, so maybe how to question their children about the books that they are reading. We might have some stay and read sessions for parents. We might have some after school book clubs or book breakfasts, which were a lovely idea, and you might even share some foods from the story. And we might also obviously give the parents some top tips for reading at home so that everybody is using the same sorts of strategies and we're sharing that promoting of that love of reading. In terms of your curriculum and your year at school, do plan out some national reading events. So we do make sure there's an updated calendar of national reading events on our website each term. There are too many to do all of them. So our advice would be to choose a select few that you can really participate in, maybe one a term, to make sure that it doesn't become tokenistic. You may want to choose one based around fiction, so maybe World Book Day. You might want to choose a non-fiction based one, and hopefully you'll choose one of the poetry days as well. So, a few final key messages. Promote reading as an active process that involves the children in finding clues and solving puzzles. We really want the children to be excited about reading. We want to hear conversations about reading. Make sure you're modelling techniques. So when you're reading, speak aloud the thought processes associated with being an active reader. Be patient. So when you're reading and you're asking children questions, give the children enough time to work things out and to formulate a response. But above all, be enthusiastic about books and reading. It really does make a difference. If you love reading, then the children will love reading as well. Okay, that's all from me. I hope you found that useful, and I hope that will help you to promote a love of reading right the way across your school. Bye for now.